Hello, my name is Blake, and we're going to be making a 2D game with Love2D. So this is a free game engine where you write your game in Lua, and we're going to be vibe coding the whole thing. So you're going to have to get whichever AI tools you need. For this, I'm going to try to use DeepSeek for the majority of it, and then whenever I get into a tight spot, I might fire up Claude or Codex, just because they're expensive and I don't want to use too much of my tokens on them. So after you have that installed, you're going to have to install this Love2D engine. If you're on Windows, Linux, it's pretty much the same. But for Linux, I don't think I have it installed yet. So here's let's see here. Let me minimize my terminal. So here's the website, and you're going to click this Ubuntu PPA if you're on Ubuntu, which I am. And here we have some installation instructions right here. So I'm gonna copy and paste this into my terminal so I can get the engine installed. So paste that there. I'm gonna separate these two commands so that they will run in sequence. Okay, cool. Alright, okay, unexpected token. Okay, I guess I separated the commands wrong. I think you would use ampersand. Okay, the repository does not have a release file. Okay, let me... Okay, we got it installed. Maybe? No? Okay. I guess I'm just gonna use Snap version 11.2. That's probably fine. Actually, I'm going to use apt install love. That gives me 11.5, I reckon. Okay. So while that's going, I'm going to show the design document. So I used AI and Love2D to make a different game a while back, and it was a platformer. And I'm gonna show the game real quick. Let's see. Just to show you what I've done with it so far. I'm gonna be building the new game from scratch, but I've kind of done an analysis of the architecture and decided what I wanted to copy over and what I wanted to keep. Let me get the window showing here so you can see the game. Okay, I just got to move it up. Order, move to the top. There we go. Okay, so that's an old screen. Well, shoot, it's not updating the screen. Hold on a second. Open selector, window, share. There we go. Alright, so we got the main menu here. Well, this is a multiplayer game. It supports local multiplayer, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. We got IMAP. Alright. So this was supposed to be kind of like Vampire Survivor style, except a platformer. So you start out with a little dagger, and okay, something invisible. Oh, there's another enemy. He has, basically the enemies can pick up the buffs. So you'll see these buffs spawn randomly around the map. Well, the enemies can pick those up too, so they can get pretty powerful if they live long enough. So this thing the dagger will just poke them. See that? And see I've got like a running combat log up at the top. It shows my health, my level, what buffs I have. I don't know how much. I'm probably not going to copy much of the interface, the user interface to the new game. Let's see here. So every time you level up, you get to pick a power up, whatever. Something's broken, so it's not showing the spell description. And then you pick up this magnet power up, sucks all the power up, and that can make you really powerful. So every once in a while, I spawn in a super enemy. Let's say like Nemesis is spawned, and he's a dude that can just totally kill you. And I think that's like every 3 minutes he spawns. So here's we got Nemesis approaching. And you see here in the middle, it shows you an arrow of the next power up, I think, but it also shows you where the Nemesis is. So you know to avoid it. He's gonna go looking for you. The other enemies, they seek you out as well, but they don't move as fast. They're not as easy. The music here, I forget what it was, but there's like a JavaScript or a movie that lets you basically write the music in code, and then it plays it for you. And what I did, I gave the AI the schema to generate the music. With Ruby. I told it festival music or whatever, and it did it, and it sounds amazing. And then for your amusement, so I copied over the stuff that I thought was worth saving, like the not the code, but just the architecture, like the conceptual stuff, and I will show you the document. So I had Claude analyze my code and the different systems and stuff like that, and give like an evaluation. So here we have engine Love2D 11.5 Lua based 2D game engine. Let's see what's important. Okay, we have a component based design. So we have an ECS system that manages all the entities. And let's see here. I was using a quad tree algorithm to speed things up, so it could so it would avoid rendering things and stuff like that that's not visible. And that was kind of necessary, because once you get a lot of things spawning on screen, if you don't have anything like that, things can really start to slow down. Let's see here. Here we have the directory structure, which we're loosely going to copy this for the new game. And most of the code you can test without actually having to load the game up. So this is good for testing for regression. So when you want to know if you broke something or not. And I advise use Git. Anytime you get to a state where you change something, just tell your agent that you want to make a commit, and it'll do it. It's pretty easy. You don't have to know too much about Git. So you'll tell it, when you first start, initiate a repo in this directory, and it'll do that. There's some instances where you don't want to have the AI do everything, because that can get kind of wasteful, especially if you're using like Codex or Claude. So like for simple Git commands, so making a commit or whatever, it's best to just use the basic commands if you can learn them. And I'm not really assuming anyone knows how to program, because I think this stuff is great for people who aren't programmers. And as long as you read the code that's generated, if you read enough of it, eventually you're going to understand what's going on. And, it's going to take time, but eventually you'll be able to spot things maybe that aren't so good in the code and have it take a look. And another thing that works really good is having like you can generate code with DeepSeek, and then you can have Codex or Claude review the code. So, you know, because DeepSeek is, there's a new version, but my past experience with it, once its context gets kind of full, like over 30%, it can start making mistakes and get stuck in loops. But I haven't seen that with the latest DeepSeek models. And I use the reasoning model for the most part. It just seems to be a little bit better. So I'll get started. I'm going to make a new directory. We'll call this, let me think. Oh, first, I'll say something. Okay, so this game is going to be a side-scroller RPG too, except there's going to be like an active time battle system. So when you encounter enemies within a certain radius, they get thrown into this combat state, and it's turn-based. So we'll have things like stats on your character, like initiative or whatever, that determines the order who gets to move. So when it's your turn to move, you can basically move the way you can in a typical, you know, free-moving side-scroller. But you only get so much time to execute a move. And you'll be able to run away if that's what you want to do. And then it will basically put the AI, the enemies, into like a neutral state where their physics will still be enabled, but they're not going to be aggressive. And the same goes for enemies all around. They should just be doing their thing. And however, if an enemy does happen to walk into your radius, they'll be added to the combat queue, and you'll be fighting them as well. But okay, so I'm gonna call this, let's see, I'll call it Scroller RPG, or how about SRPG, just to be short. And then I'm gonna init the Git repo here so I don't forget. Let's see if it did it. I think it did. Yeah. Okay, cool. Do I want to... I'm not going to change the branch name to master. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to copy over this design document that I have here. About. And then I'm going to call this design.doc.md. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is fire up DeepSeek. I'm going to use OpenCode, and I'm going to make sure that I'm using the reasoning model. I need to set an alias up so that it calls it with the right model, because I have to switch every time and it's annoying. So we got DeepSeek R1, and I'm pretty sure this is the latest one. Let me double check, because the older, like, you can get OpenCode and it might be configured with the wrong one. And I'm pretty sure that like in OpenCode you have like Big Pickle, Min-Max. They're okay, but not great, and they seem to get stuck in loops like DeepSeek used to. Like DeepSeek would be like, let me think, and then it would be thinking, and it would just get stuck, and it would take forever. So anyways, I'm gonna say read design. Okay, I'm gonna put the @ symbol to tell it a file, and start creating the project structure for our game. So it should create like the base modules, maybe stubs like empty files, and their directories. We'll see what it does. Like, and what's cool about this is you don't have to know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but you can make something that you think is fun. And like the art, I don't know if I'll be making art right now. I'll probably just use like colored rectangles for testing or whatever. But I like using Sprite because it has a really easy built-in animator. So, and then for building maps, I'm going to use Tiled, which is a tool that lets you create maps. You're really just creating the maps, though. It doesn't really have logic or anything like RPG Maker, but it's pretty good to get your maps It's easy to get your maps exported and then have the game engine read these maps. So yeah, we'll just give it a minute. DeepSeek is a little bit slower than Claude and Codex, and I was using Gemini a few months ago, but I got like this huge bill from Google because Gemini was like super horrible at using tools. So it would just waste all of your tokens on repeating tool calls and things like that. Other than that, it was pretty good. So I might pay my bill and then see how it goes again. But okay, we can see that it's gonna create all these folders. We got, let's see. Yeah, cool. After that, what I want to do is sometimes it's good to ask the AI, like, what's the next thing we should implement. Definitely gonna want the component manager though up online pretty quick, and then probably the manager, just so we can get something on the screen. But there's a certain way, we're gonna use what is it called? Let me look at the doc. Let's see, hash tree, I think. Yeah, spatial hash. So this is for like finding the entities that are close enough so you're not rendering things that are, that you can't even see. And you definitely have to do something like that. All right. So in the game I made before, I did have multiplayer, which was pretty easy for the AI to do. So I was playing it with my son and stuff, and it's pretty cool. But I'm not going to add multiplayer to this because you want to keep it simple, and you really want to make sure everything is modular, because if you're dumping everything into one file, the AI just reads that whole thing and it just consumes a ton of your context. So you'll kind of get a feel for what belongs in its own component, and as long as you tell the AI, give it some strict rules, like you can, if you have an agent's file, it'll stick to what you tell it for the most part. Now let's see, let's get code open and see what it's writing so far. I think I'm gonna have to. Did it open it in a new? Okay, here we go. All right, cool. No, I don't want AI features. Sorry. Component. Okay, so it is writing like a basic skeleton for all these modules, which is cool. And Love2D is really easy. You don't have to manually like set up like double buffering, triple buffering, or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, you want to read the code for the most part, but I don't always, but I do test. I do have it write test. That way, if I break something, I know, and I always make sure that I keep up with Git, so that if I screw something up, I can ask the AI to compare this working branch with the last commit to see, and it works pretty well. Okay, what are we doing now? AI components. And I know for like the static assets, like just like your regular walkable tiles. They don't really belong in the entity component system. However, if you're wanting like something like destructible tiles and things like that, you want to be able to treat it like a regular entity. So like maybe you have platforms that are moving around, elevators and whatnot. You would want that to be inside of the component system for sure. Let's see. And then we have shaders too. Shaders are pretty cool. You can, with pretty low effort, you can add some pretty good visual effects to your sprites and all that. The other game that I made using Love2D, I wasn't comfortable with drawing, so I was basically creating the assets in Blender, and then I was exporting them from Blender. So I was rendering them out as tiled images with the animations and stuff like that to just sprite images, and that works pretty good. But I say, just draw your own stuff. You draw enough stuff, you're gonna get good at it eventually. I mean, surely. But you don't have to impress anybody but yourself and your mom. So, and your mom's always gonna act like your shit's good. Okay. Man, yeah. Old DeepSeek is chugging along. I think at the end of this, I'm gonna have Claude write the test. I know when I first started using AI agents for coding, when you have them write test, a lot of times they would fake, you know what I mean? Like, just to get the test to pass, which is super annoying. And, you might consider writing test first, but you don't always know how your implementation is going to turn out. And, as long as you, pay attention to the test and have it run the test, you're probably going to be okay. Like, it's gotten so much better than it has, like, in the past 2 years. It's getting so good. And it's good for any kind of application you want to make, not just games. Automation stuff, like, it's, I used it to automate applying for jobs and web scraping and stuff like that, and it's so easy. And there used to be a thing where, what would they call it? I think it was called like spec flow, where you would have it write an entire spec, and then you were supposed to kind of like be able to just one-shot the build of the application. I don't think that's so necessary right now, and also your token usage is going to go way up if you're doing that. But you definitely want to have some kind of a plan and keep everything small. And whenever you get a chance, refactor. You can always just tell the agent, like, let's see what we can refactor. And also you can have another agent review the code, because some agents are better at certain languages than other. Like, I know with Claude, I could have it write Lisp code, and it did a really good job. But then when I tried like Gemini or DeepSeek, it had too much trouble with the parentheses, and it was always getting hung up on the syntax. But that's one of the things I like about Lua, is it's really easy to read, and it's really easy for the AI to process, just like Python. It's really good at processing Python as well. Maybe it doesn't have all of the object-oriented features that you might want, but it's got some type of a version of that. So yeah, and we really got to make sure to nail the asset manager as well. And I think it would be cool to have some kind of asset browser, and then come up with like a standard for your assets. So let's say you want other people to help work on your project, it's easy for them to make your shitty art better. And I've experimented with using local generation models for images and stuff like that. And there's some cool stuff you can do. Like, for example, I think it's called control nets, where basically you can give the model an image, and then it will make its output sort of fit that image. So what I would do, like if I would, like the last thing I made was like a cryogenic pod in Blender, but I didn't really know how I wanted it to look. So I made a render of my model, and I told it, like, make this look like something from Star Trek or whatever. And sure enough, I mean, it processes an image that looks like your model. It's really good. And this can be useful for brainstorming and things like that. So just trying stuff out and seeing what it's going to look like. And I've tried using it for like just general texturing and stuff like that. But I don't think it can do like normal maps and height maps and all of that stuff. So you're going to have to figure something out. But suppose you're building a wall or whatever, you can say, hey, generate a wall with wallpaper and wood trim, and it'll spit something out, and then you just move your UVs around, and you can make something that looks okay. It's not going to be awesome, and there's a lot of people that really hate AI work, so artwork anyway. I don't see so many people having a problem with using it for code, but there's definitely a lot of people who reject any images that are created with AI, and with good reason. I guess they're just stealing everybody's artwork and code to build these models. And I think that would be fine if your stuff is public, sure. But I don't think they should be claiming the derivative work for themselves. Like, for example, like some agents you use, it might add itself to like the commit message or something like that. Like, this was created by code. Well, you don't get to take credit for this when you stole everybody else's work. That's kind of weird. But we'll see. I mean, one thing I wish would come along is running models locally, because you have to have some pretty beefy hardware to run a model that's capable of like doing what this one is right now. You have to buy a pretty expensive GPU. Probably not so much for image generation. It might be a little bit slower, but as long as you give it time, it's going to get it done. But local models, like on a consumer grade PC, is not going to be able to handle the amount of tokens that the big boys have right now. Not to say they're not useful, though. I still use them quite a bit. Like for like some, say you wanted like some procedural type content, dialogue or something like that. So like you could give a local model a schema that it has to follow, like a JSON schema, and tell it, like, this is a dialogue system. Come up with something, and for just like placeholder stuff, it works pretty well. Like you could have, you want NPCs to just say random stuff. You can either generate like a bunch of pre-canned text using an LLM, or you can call it on the fly. But I wouldn't expect everyone to have a video card with like 12 gigabytes of video RAM. So, but I mean, for your own amusement, that stuff is really cool, and you can do some cool stuff with it. Okay, it's doing the battle system. Wow. It's really going all out. One thing you can do is you can have multiple agents start tackling different things. And, just for the sake of learning, I think I could do that. I could just fire up Claude and tell Claude to find out what hasn't been implemented yet. Let's see, actually, I'm gonna tell DeepSeek at its next break to write what it's done already and what it plans to do, so I can get another agent working on different things, and there won't be much of a conflict. I mean, there might be a little bit, but it's going to get resolved. So, write what you've done so far in, we'll call this also what you're still planning on doing, so other agents working on this project won't create any conflicts. Or okay, that's probably good, because then I could get Codex and Claude working on this. You can also, like, from here you could say like agents. I think maybe not in this one. There has to be a way, but you can definitely tell it to assign subtasks to agents, and they'll just all work them at the same time. Now, if you do that with Codex or Claude, you're gonna run your usage up pretty fast. But what's cool about DeepSeek, it's not so fast, but it's so cheap. Like $30 can get you by for like a whole month of like super heavy usage. All right, now it's doing it. So a lot of times, if I'm having an issue with code that one agent generates, I can just have a smarter agent check it out and debug the issue. But something else you can do is you can tell, like I can tell DeepSeek how to operate the Claude command line tool, and I'll say like, oh, if you need help, query Claude and give them the context that they need to help you with this problem, and it'll do it. You just have to make sure that you tell it about how long it's going to take, because one issue these models still have is they'll run a command, but they don't even think about how long it's going to take. So the command will time out, and they'll be like, huh, what happened? Or it'll launch a program, like in a browser or whatever, not realizing that, you have to interact with it on the screen, and it'll think something's wrong. So you got to watch out for that too. But I don't know. I think somebody who's never programmed before, if they pick this up, I mean, you say make a folder and make me a game. Make me the snake game. You'll have a snake game in just a couple minutes. Anybody can do that, and you just go from there. You don't have to know anything about programming because the model does. I mean, and let's say something sucks, but you don't know why it sucks. You just say, hey, why does this suck? And, see what it says. All right, now I think it's time to fire up the other agent. Let's see what, okay, so we got the DeepSeek file made. So I'll read that thing just to kind of get an idea. Do I not have more installed? Okay, do I have less? Bad usage. Oh, okay. All right. What's been implemented? Still to be implemented. Well, okay. I will tell DeepSeek, I'll say update your DeepSeek every time you make an addition. And then the other agent, when he reads it, that file won't be stale anymore, and we might not have any conflicts. But I'll also tell Claude to watch out for conflicts. So I'll say read DeepSeek MD and design. Start implementing the project. Be sure not to create any conflicts with the other agent. Also, keep the I don't have to file updated as you make changes. All right. Claude is so much faster. And also, plan mode is extremely useful if you don't already have a plan. Like, so in this instance, you know, we already have the design document made up. Plan mode is basically just kind of going to do the same thing. It's just going to create like a markdown file and then pass it on to the next agent. So that agent picks up with, you know, the right context it needs to get to work. Okay. So Claude wants to create the configuration file. Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. Yes, allow all of the stuff. And then I'm probably gonna have Claude read all the code that was written by the other, by DeepSeek as well, to see if there's any possible bugs. Not until I run the test though. Once I do the smoke test, just to see if everything fires up right, then I'll have it review the code and probably refactor whatever it can. But it's almost there. We've got most of the systems in place. Let's see here. Battle queue. Yeah, it looks like it's doing a good job. I'm trying to think about how I want to get the images for testing. I think what I'm going to do, so we're just not looking at like rectangles and stuff, I'm going to tell DeepSeek to find a bunch of Creative Commons licensed assets, images and sound effects, so that when we're testing our game, we can use that stuff and it's free to use. Let's see. Maybe I'll have Codex do it. Okay. Oh, I don't have Codex. Are you kidding me? Alright, I'm gonna have to install Codex real quick. I thought I did that. So we want the Codex CLI tool. Not the desktop one. We want the Codex CLI installation instructions. Okay, brew. Okay, npm install. Cool. All right, so okay, npm. Oh, what's this? Oh, I see. Permission denied. Oh, do I gotta be sudo? Okay, sure. Since I'm installing it globally, it has to be root. That's fine, I guess. Not ideal. I mean, usually if you're using Node, you want like a Node environment manager. So each user has their own implementation of Node. You can easily switch versions. Alright, so I'm gonna source my .bash rc just in case. Now Codex, there we go. Sign in with ChatGPT. I don't know if that shit should be public, but whatever. Long-time code. Try another method, buddy. Alright, I'm authenticated now. Yes, I trust the content. Have your way with it. Let's get alright. So I'm gonna say read the design doc so it kind of knows what's going on. And find me a bunch of free image and sound assets for testing my sprites and asset system. Don't write any code, just find some free assets. They have to be free to use. There we go. It's pretty good at finding stuff like this. Some websites block the bot, but I think eventually that's going to get to where it's not so bad. That way everyone will be able to share information, all the robots. Be easy for them. Alright, what's this guy doing? No JSON library yet. Okay, so he wants to install this JSON.lua library so we can parse our JSON files. Yeah, do it. I trust you. I trust you with my life. Alright. DeepSeek still chugging along. I guess at some point it created a new to-do list. I don't know. Okay. Claude's coming along. If DeepSeek keeps being slow, I might take it off and then have Claude wrap up whatever DeepSeek didn't get finished. Looks like DeepSeek is about half. It's about to do the asset manager, the shaders, and then we'll have some sprites we can experiment with. Cool, it found some animated sprites. That's good. All right. What was the beep? Okay. All right, so it found us a bunch of stuff. Cool. I'm gonna say update that and update that. To let other agents know where these assets are and why we have them. Alright. So now next time we ask another agent to check stuff out and maybe, set us up a animated sprite. It's going to be able to know exactly where to find the assets. It won't have to go hunting for them because that's what it'll do. It'll if I were to say like find the animated sprites, it's just going to run find and search the whole directory, and we don't want to do that. That's kind of a waste because it's going to do it like every time. All right. Yeah, DeepSeek's almost halfway done. I'm going to look at the code real quick. Music system. So the asset manager, anytime my game needs an asset, it's gonna pull it from this asset manager. I don't know a ton about game development, but I feel like eventually I'm gonna want to set up some kind of like asset streaming. So, but just to get things off the ground, get something up on the screen, this will be good enough. And I'm sort of thinking about, for the UI system, maybe having it create some type of like basic HTML translator. So like I can write my UI code in HTML and CSS and then have it convert that into Lua code. But I'll have to, really test it out pretty good. But I think that's something that'll be pretty easy to do. Ah, yes. Alright, cool. I'm just curious as to what assets it did find. Assets, sprites. No, where did you put them, buddy? You didn't tell me. Okay. Does it say where he put the assets he downloaded, or is he just keeping? I don't know if it actually downloaded them or not. It might have just put the links to them. So I'm just gonna see if it found it. Oh, well, he didn't download none of it. What did you do, sir? You didn't do what I told you, you naughty boy. Okay. I'm gonna say write a script, download these assets. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna do that anyway, probably, so. Alright, let's check on the progress. Oh, Lua Rocks. Okay, cool. I think Lua Rocks is the linter. Oh, okay, shoot. I gotta install that manually. Hold on, buddy. What's the command to... Oh, let's just see what it says. I should be able to install Lua Rocks into the project directory, so I don't have to install it globally. Yeah, make it resilient. Cool. So I think Claude's about ready to test. I gotta take a phone call real quick. Alright, that's my wife. She likes to... If I don't want to get interrupted, I can't tell her not to interrupt me, or I will get interrupted. Here we go. DeepSeek is talking about test files, and Claude is was talking about test files. Okay. Basically, if you have two agents fighting over the same file, one agent will try to do something and it'll be like, whoa, this file's changed, you know. And I've tried some things to kind of prevent that. Like I created like an MCP server so that like anytime an agent was going to modify a file, it would kind of have to like check it in. And I don't know, I think that just created a lot of overhead. I mean, really for most people, you're not going to be running several different agents at the same time, but you know, it's something you want to know how to do at least. Here we go. Codecs. This is the asset downloader. Okay, cool. Like I totally could have just told it to download all of them manually, but whatever. You might want to reuse it, you know. If you start a new project and you want some test assets, just get this script and then run it and it'll download them for you. Alright, let's see who's almost done. Okay. Run with, oh, I can run something now. Let's see how that goes. Alright. Let me share this. Screen capture. What did it call it? SRPG? Okay, cool. Alright. And there it is. That's the window. Cool. Baby steps. Okay. I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna wait for DeepSeek to finish up. Actually, okay. I'm gonna run that asset downloader script. There's this thing called what is it? Python. It's Python 3 that lets you run Python 3 just by putting type Python. So I'm going to do sudo apt install Python is Python 3. Sorry about that. All right, now where did it put the? Probably in tools, maybe. Yeah, tools. Alright, now we're downloading our assets. That's cool. So it's going to put them in assets, vendor, Kenny. Alright, these look like game assets. Cool. Alright, I'm gonna have to put a pin in it from here. The next time I stream, you know, I'll continue where I left off. I won't mess with it at all. Let me hide that window. There you go. Alright, cool. Well, thanks for watching.